I want to share a few thoughts about something that I imagine we've all felt and we've all experienced, which is that sense that things are so challenging that you're just not quite sure how much more you can handle and how it is that you're going to be able to respond to the challenges. I was remembering years ago that when my immediate family, my parents, my sisters, and I had gone through a number of challenges together, my mother observed, we've gone through these challenges. And I said, hopefully, maybe that means that all of the challenges are in the past and things will now be perfect and free of challenge. And my mother said at the time, something that I imagine many of us have heard growing up and in our adult lives, some version of don't give a kinahara, which means, do not activate the evil eye, the ayin hara. Just when Moses might have thought that all of his troubles were behind him, after the Israelites complained that they didn't like the food, after his own brother and sister complained that he was taking on too much authority, after the majority of the Meraglim, the scouts, came back and said, there's no way that we will be able to enter this land, Korach and his crowd staged a rebellion. As I said earlier, they said to Moses, Kol ha'ila ha'ida kulam kiroshim, the entire community is holy. Why do you imagine that you have the right to lord it over the rest of us? And what was Moses's initial reaction? The Torah tells us, Vayishma Moshe, Vayipol al panav. He heard what was said and he fell on his face. What actually happened? Commentators have different opinions about what actually happened. One says that he fell on his face in order to pray. Another says that he fell on his face in order to receive nivuah, to receive prophecy. And a third said he fell on his face because he fell on his face. He didn't have the strength in that moment to deal. He had been withstanding so many different challenges from without and possibly even within that he could no longer remain upright. He fell from the burden of not being able to respond. By the time he gets up, he has a plan. He understands that he is going to be staging a competition between Korach and his followers on the one hand, and Moses and Aaron and their followers on the other hand. And spoiler alert, it does not end well for Korach and for his followers. But I want us to focus on that moment of the falling on Moses's face. I suspect that many of us have had moments when, if not literally falling on our face, we felt like we wanted to fall on our face. Or we have said to ourselves some version of the pressure is too great, our adversaries are too strong. It is overwhelming right now for us to continue upright to be able to face all of these challenges. It's hard to imagine that in these past months, we haven't each felt some version of, I've had it. I've had enough. What more could possibly go wrong? How am I and my loved ones going to continue during these challenges? So I want to look at what helped Moses to get back up and see if it can perhaps help all of us. So first of all, as I alluded to, he had a plan. And once he had a plan, he was able to get up and face the situation. Obviously, plans change. Obviously, as we go through a particular situation, there are variables that emerge, and we realize that we often have to shift gears a little bit. But when we have a plan, it helps us to feel less hopeless and less helpless. Often I will talk with people within our congregation who are feeling dejected about a situation. Maybe one having to do with professional circumstances, maybe a challenge that a child is posing, maybe an interpersonal challenge, or maybe just feeling overwhelmed by too much going on. Invariably, as the person begins to think of concrete steps that can be taken, the mood starts to change. it helps to have a plan. Secondly, at various points in his life, Moses is able to express gratitude. And I would point to two moments, recognizing that there were many times in his life when he complained about his lot. He was not a perfect human being. He was a human being. But two moments that I would point to are the two songs that he sings. One is Shirat Hayam, the song that he sings when the Israelites cross the sea, and he leads them in song. And the other is Ha'azinu, toward the end of his life. And both songs express gratitude for God's favors, gratitude for the moment. Recently, I participated in a program with a group of clergy, and the program was facilitated by a psychologist, Dr. Pelkovitz. He's done significant work with clergy, helping clergy to deal with some of the stresses that we have based on the work that we do. And he said that every human being has two superpowers, and we don't draw on them as much as we should. One of the superpowers that we have is our gratitude. When we are able to locate our sense of gratitude for the things that are going right, it helps us not become paralyzed by the things that are going wrong. We say it so often, it sounds like a cliche, but to the extent that we can feel and even more so express gratitude for the blessings in our lives, it gives us a boost of energy. So I'm going to suggest an exercise, those moments when we are literally or figuratively falling on our faces. Perhaps we can stop for a moment and say the words Modeh, which are the first words that we say in the morning. I am grateful. And then to actually list one or two blessings in our lives that we are grateful for. It will not make the problems vanish, but based on the experience that I know many of us have had, it helps to restore our energy so that we can face those challenges. And the second superpower that Dr. Pelkovitz identifies is our ability to do chesed, our ability to take measures to improve the lives of other human beings. At first blush, that seems really counterintuitive. If we don't have strength for ourselves, how are we going to find strength for other people? But Dr. Pelkovitz points out, and I believe our own experience also supports it, that precisely in the moments that we are feeling least capable, we can, if we reach out to other people, find an energy to give that also ends up reinforcing our own energy that can ultimately be helpful for ourselves. Shortly after my father passed away, my mother, who had been an elementary school teacher for decades, decided that she was going to volunteer her time to help novice teachers that she thought might be able to benefit from her experience. And she found that this enterprise actually helped ground her and helped give her some strength during a time when she was very much in need of strength. At any point in our lives, we can give. And we can give regardless of our capacity. Very famously, the founder of Yad L'Kashish, which is an organization in Jerusalem where elderly people, many of whom have limited physical capacity, produce beautiful crafts that are sold throughout the world. The founder of this organization said the following: if a person has a single functioning finger, I will put that finger to work, creating something beautiful for someone else. Moses, as we know, devoted his entire life to helping other people, and toward the end of his life delivers a series of discourses, the purpose of which was to help the Israelites create a society that would be based on tzedek, justice, and chesed, on loving kindness to other people. Things have been challenging for us, to be sure. Collectively and individually, they have been challenging. There are times when we feel like falling on our faces, and times that one way or another we actually do. I think that's okay. We are human. We are allowed to have moments and even extended periods when we cannot keep it together. But like Moses, we can find the strength to get back up. The strength that comes from our recognition of the blessings in our lives, the strength that comes from our capacity to help other people and our commitments to do so, the strength that comes from coming up with a plan that we can deploy as we continue to navigate our lives. To paraphrase a portion of an old song that I would not otherwise quote, we get knocked down, but we get up again. And we can help others to get up as well. Shabbat Shalom.